How are you?
Good, 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 good. I want to thank everybody that has logged in already to our webinar today. We will be presenting some information, some data, some statistics. And today's topic is calming the market. And I got to tell you, Larry, I got a couple of emails already from agents telling me, well, with all the data coming out and all the data today, what do you mean calming the market? And I said, well, we need to analyze the data and we need to understand. And our job as consultants is to get our clients, buyers, or sellers to make rational decisions. Plus, we need to put on, first of all, I think a lot of the things that me and Larry are going to share today is, the plane is in turbulence. The plane is not crashing, but the oxygen mask came down.
Right.
What are the instructions on a plane, Larry? What's the first thing they tell you when the oxygen mask come down, Larry?
Put yours on first.
Right? You got to put on your mask first. You got to put on that mask, and now, more than ever, you got to put on your mask first and then take care of everybody around you. So like I say every day for this past, God, I don't know how many days we've been doing this. I hope everybody's safe. I hope you're still being active in your business, following the guidelines and maintaining safe protocols. But this is not the moment to hit pause in your business, and that's what we keep doing this little webinars every day. And this one, more than anything, is called calming the markets. And it's called calming the markets because everybody listening to us has listing, has buyers, has prospective sellers, has business on the pipeline or have business for 2020 on the pipeline. And I want you to know some stats before you make irrational decisions yourself, or when your clients who go to you and ask you for opinions, you make decisions. So Larry, for those that don't know you, can you do a quick intro and introduce yourself, and we take it from there?
Absolutely. My name is Larry Singh. I am the manager of the Canvas Real Estate Boca Raton. I also am an instructor at one of the most predominant schools in South Florida that teaches real estate. My background is a little bit on analytics of real estate. I used to work in the commercial sector. I used to work in the government sector. And now I'm just trying to share a little bit of the knowledge that I have with our agents and make this business move forward in any way I can.
Perfect. So you're seeing, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, so you're seeing a lot of the eager people that are joining our industry still, right?
Absolutely, every day.
So what questions are these newbies asking you? Because a lot of them are probably thinking, gee, what am I doing? Is this the time to get into real estate? So for those that don't know me, this is my 26 going on 27 years into this. So I've been through a couple of bumpy airplane rides. I got into this industry after the savings and loans correction had taken place. And so I've been to a couple of hiccups, and I know this is another big hiccup. This is a big hiccup, but you learn from those. So what are you hearing from those eager newbies jumping into the industry?
Well, a lot of it is fear, right? So I think it all starts with fear. The questions that they have are all stemming from fear and the fear of the people around them, right? And they're asking questions like, is the market going to crash? How long before the market crashes? What are we supposed to look for? Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? So should people get out of their house now and wait for it? Well, things that people have told me as well is well, nobody's buying and nobody's selling. So those are the types of questions that I'm hearing right now.
Okay, so let's analyze that. Let's break into that one. Is anybody buying or anybody selling? In the past 48 hours, and the MLS that covers Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, there's been 137 new listings. Not a lot, you might think, but that is showing you that even on this lockdown that we're in right now, right? Because we're in complete lockdown, 137 new listings hit the market. So for those thinking the market is going to crash, and listen, I'm a realist. The market is going to go through a contraction. It's normal that it's going to go through a contraction. But we need to understand how that is going to happen and how that could happen, and how government intervention is going to assist from that from happening. So out of 137 plus listings, deals that fell through and came in the market was another 70. So in the past 48 hours, 200 listings between, all kind of, not rentals, not about for sale, 200 plus have come back in the market. Now, how many have gone pending in the past 48 hours? I think we're close to 100. So 200 listings have come in the market and 100 have gone under contract. So whoever says the market has stopped, no, the market has drastically slowed down, and it was expected. We're in a complete lockdown. I mean, what did you think? But even in a complete lockdown, we are still doing business. So that is my answer to, Then the next one, when is the market going to crash? And me and Larry have a couple of good opinions on this. Listen, nobody has a magic ball. Nobody has a magic crystal ball. When we had our beginning of the year event, that we had a meeting company-wide, I was very, they call it bullish. I was very bullish on the country, on the economy. And then, this pandemic took place, and it has sort of derailed what has been the best economy and market in the history of this country. But you need to think about that. We were in the best economy and market in the history of the country. So we're in a good financial position to come back from where we are right now. Right, Larry?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. I read an article right around the beginning of March, right? And it was from the chief economist of Freddie Mac.
Okay.
And he said that the national real estate market is about 3.3 million units in shortage, right? That means that there's 3.3 million more buyers than there are sellers, right? So that we're in shortage, 3.3 million people. And that number is increasing about 300,000 per year. So what that's telling me is going into this, right at the beginning or towards the middle of this, March 2nd or 5th or something like that, that would have been right at the beginning of the first lockdown, right? Right around that time. It seems to me that going into this, we are in a good situation for the market to slow down. Obviously, it's a tragedy as to what's happening in the world, and we never want something like that to happen. But for real estate purposes, having a shortage of inventory is probably the best situation where we want to go into as real estate agents.
So then the next question that Larry's being asked and I'm being asked, because I manage some investments, I manage some funds as investment. Everybody's asking me, when is this market going to crash? And we have 400 plus listings, so I get a lot of questions from agents. When is the market going to crash, and how bad is it going to crash? Okay, so let's break that into pieces, and then you can make your own decision, and I will give you my humble opinion. I will give you his opinion. So to compare this to 2008, 2009, it's a travesty. It's not the same. 2008, 2009, we had an overexposed mortgage market with a lot of inconsistencies in the mortgage industry that created and exacerbated what happened in the real estate crash. We're going into this with solid grounds and defaults at almost near zero, right? Now, yes, there's going to be, I think that they already said about 10% of all mortgages have requested a forbearance, right? So there are a lot of tools being offered to those unemployed to be able to ask for a forbearance for 6 months. As from what I'm hearing, 6 months on non-payments on their mortgage. So and so for those of you that have clients and the clients that ask you, every lender has a different guideline when it comes to a forbearance. A forbearance agreement is XYZ Bank is going to say to Pete, okay, Pete, your mortgage payment is $2,000 a month for 6 months. I'm going to take those $12,000, and they're going to ask you either A, we're going to add them, you're going to have to pay me half of that in 6 months, or B, I'm going to take that money, compound interest on it, and then put it to the mortgage at the end. So
Right.
not all forbearances are the same, but forbearances are being offered. So if you have a client that is unemployed right now, the first thing they should be doing, the first phone call you should make after listening to me and Larry today is call your client and say, hey, call your bank and ask for a forbearance and understand what type of forbearance they're offering you. So if we add the forbearance assistance that is being offered to all of these unemployed individuals across our nation, it's hard to say we're going to have a foreclosure wave that's going to mimic 2008, 2009. What's your take on that one, Larry?
Well, I think that people are asking the wrong question, right? And I think the real question should be, how do you foreclose on somebody if they're in a forbearance? You can't. There's no way to foreclose on somebody if there is a forbearance that has been
He should
given.
know he's married to an attorney.
Yeah, yes, I am. A real estate attorney at that.
Oh my God.
But that's really the question, right? The government is trying to do everything they can to avoid something like that from happening, avoiding people losing their houses. So if there's putting these pieces in place, right, to get out of this situation the best way that they can at the moment, then we have to kind of believe that the people are, as our clients and our customers, are doing what they're supposed to be doing and contacting their lenders, right, and getting the forbearance that's going to be granted to them. Now, I 100% agree with you. Each lender has different criteria for that, and you have to call your lender specifically and find out what it takes to get granted a forbearance. But yeah, I definitely think the timeline is a little skewed in some people's vision because they don't understand what's happening. So if they're granting forbearances right now, it's going to be between a 6 month to, I've even heard, up to 12 months now.
Okay. So going back to the question and the data that you're going to share back with your clients, trying to, calming them and understanding after you put on your mask yourself, is forbearance are going to take a percentage of those, of those in financial distress. Is going to take their mortgage out of the equation. Listen, I understand that they might still be unemployed. They're still going to have to liquidate their home because they want to cut their expenses. But remember, if all of a sudden you're not paying your mortgage for 6 months or a year, you can sign a listing agreement and be aggressive on the pricing and be able to liquidate that house without a distress of a short sale or foreclosure. And short sales, before you jumped into this, I was talking to Larry. There's a lot of people out there selling short sale courses right now. Mm-hmm. Save your money. Wait until the storm is over. Wait 30 days. Wait to July 4th. And at that moment, turn around and look at the market. Do not spend any money getting a short sale certification or a short sale course. We are not there yet. In the short sales, we all did. And if you want to know what I did during that period, it's very simple. You can look it up in the MLS and look at my history. It's not the same short sales that are going to be done if they're done now, only because certain regulations and certain provisions that assisted the short sale for happening, certain waivers of fees or waivers of past dues, all of that doesn't exist right now. So when everybody says I'm selling you a short sale course, let's wait until July 4th, where we are as an economy on July 4th and something. Larry, something I read and I shared this with my family yesterday, and I must have shared this with everybody because a lot of people are sitting down, going back or putting that mask on first. Is should I apply for the PPP money? should I ask for a forbearance in my house? Should I ask? Should I? Is that stigma that am I taking something that is not mine? Am I taking advantage of something that is not mine? So somebody the last morning did some research and then went back to our Constitution. And under Article 5, and you can ask your wife to research it. Maybe I'm blowing smoke, but I don't think so. Under Article 5, there's something called the take clause, which literally has been used a lot for us to do real estate and when it comes to eminent domain. So the take clause says if the government takes something away from you, the government has to make you whole for it, right? That's what the take clause says. So if you're going to look at an interpretation, and that's the conversation you're going to have with her, we are in shutdown because the government shut us down. So the government took the right of all of us from earnings. Therefore, the reason they're offering all of this incentive, this is not a bailout. The government is not bailing anybody out. The government is following the Constitution and saying, I took the rights of you to earn away. Therefore, I have to compensate you for taking those rights away. So what do you think of that statement there, Larry?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think in the fact that we don't have a choice when they issue government orders for a stay at home. We don't have a choice in that. And I haven't read the article, and believe me when I tell you, I will be reading that afterwards because it's a very important piece of information, and we absolutely should understand what it says. And if they do follow that article, then I think it falls exactly in line with what you're saying, that they're trying to make us whole again because it's not our choice to stay home and do all of this. This is a government order that we've had put in place. Just for a second, I just want to go back to those foreclosures. A lot of people are forgetting, courts are closed right now in a lot of locations across the country. Courts are closed, and the government put a stay, which means that they have stopped the foreclosure process right now. So just wanted to touch on this 1 second with you because I've been seeing it and I've been hearing it a lot that people are talking and trying to sell agents overall these courses about foreclosures but how do you have a list of foreclosures when there's no court to file foreclosures? How do you have training on a foreclosure when there's no process right now? I understand about getting ahead of the curve and all of that, and maybe preparing for something that may happen in the future. That's one thing. But when you're trying to generate business now from it, I think you're 100% right. 100% right. Save your money, invest in yourself right now, and move forward. But going back to the Constitution, I agree. The government needs to make us whole, which I think they're trying to do with all these loan programs and all these packages, stimulus packages that they've been putting out.
So if we look, let's look at, if you're asking me, well, what's going to happen with prices? So what's going to happen with home prices after this? The only real twice in history that we have had something similar to this was the SARS epidemic in 2003 and the H1N1 epidemic in 2009. So the problem is that to look at what happened to real estate values during the H1N1 epidemic in 2009 and today is that in 2009, when the epidemic took place, we were already in a contraction of the market. So values were already heading down in 2009. And in 2009, they sort of plateaued. They went down about 5 to 10% at the beginning of 2009. And then by the summer 2009, the summer season kicked up and values remained the same. Now, if we go back to SARS in 2003, while SARS was taking place, values went up 15% that year. I understand SARS was a more contained epidemic, But SARS did not affect in any way, shape, or form real estate values. The issue is that we're still sitting inside the storm, and we gotta wait until we're out of the storm to see what is going to happen. And another thing that I'm being asked a lot, Larry, is it's unemployment. The massive unemployment numbers that have come out recently. You know, for everybody listening to me right now, and there's about 100 plus of you listening to me right now, you're not unemployed. You're an independent contractor. So you got to get up every morning and make a choice not to be unemployed. As a real estate agent, you choose to be unemployed when you sit on the couch and start binging Tiger King on Netflix. that day, and by the way, Carol Baskin, let's not even get into that. But if that's the moment that you choose to be an employee as a real estate agent, as a professional, you are what is being called by the government an essential service. And if you look at the entire country, that's a lot. That means a lot. You are an essential service by decree from the governor of Florida. So since you are an essential service, that means you're still employed. That means you still got to be doing what you need to be doing to do your business. Now, the rest of the unemployment that is out there, Goldman Sachs just did a study of the first wave that came out of unemployment. And we got to wait to the end of the month to see the second wave. So they looked at the first 3 million unemployment. They picked up 700,000 people to see what makes up those 3 million people, the first 3 million people that filed for unemployment. Remember, this is the first 3 million people that filed at the beginning of last month, right? When this was beginning to roll out. So I know that when the next one comes out, the stats are going to be different. But those first 3 million people, 63% of those poor souls were service industry, hotel workers, restaurant workers, bartenders. So that is the first wave that came out. The next 20% was part-time unemployed, part-time retail employees, right? And then when they looked at the next 17+%, there was a lot in the medical field. And I said medical field, so I went to look at it, but with this going on, and I said no.
That's surprising to me too.
Chiropractors, dentists, those type of doctors that had shut down their operations. So there was a big percentage nationally of that. So I'm not trying to paint you a rosy picture, and I'm not saying that everybody needs a job. I'm just saying that the first punch that we got was a part of the economy that will recover the fastest. Because if May 1st, they say we can go back to work, Florida can open back to work, all of those doctors are going to open, right? All of those hotels are going to reopen. All of those restaurants, most of them are going to reopen. Now, you're going to tell me, Larry, that if you own a hotel, you're going to go look for new employees, or you're going to bring your employees who already know your business?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. I'm going to bring back the people that I've already trained and spent the money on.
Bingo. So we like I said, we really gotta put on the calendar, and I have it in my calendar for July 4th to turn around and look back and see where we are, to understand that the massive unemployment wave, how that will begin to cascade back down to a more realistic. We're still gonna have an unemployment, based on my humble opinion, between 8 and 10% after the cascade back down, and then it will begin to trickle from there. But once again, looking at the other two epidemics that we had, when SARS took place in 2003, we were still living off the investment that we had done in our country after 9/11. So unemployment was about close to between 5.5, and then in August it dropped to a 5. So and then same thing, when we look at H1N1, I cannot look at those real statistics, because 2009 was already the beginning of the peak of the financial crisis. There was a lot of financial jobs that were being lost, and then it kept going down and down and down. And so unemployment ticked up from January. There was at 7.75. It got to about 8.75, and then the last half of the year, boom, it peaked at 9. So when we look at history of what has happened when we have done this before, so if you want to combine those two, if you want to come back unemployment with H1N1 at the same time, we peaked around 9 and 10, and that's why my prediction is when we are by the time everything reopens, that's what we should be around.
Right. And I don't disagree with you. I just want to add some statistics to what you were saying, right? And this is just to give a little bit of prefaces to what you were saying about, real estate agents have to make a choice every single day to be employed, right? So a long time ago, I read this book that said that it takes about 21 days to create or break any habit, right? Whether it's good or bad, right? So we've been home for what I think 17 days or 18 days now.
18 days,
right? 21 days. So if you've been home every single day watching Tiger King, right? Not working. Remember, in 21 days, that's now going to become a habit for you. So then you're going to take 21 days and break that habit to create a new habit when you have to go back to work. Look, I 100% agree with what you're saying. And I think that everybody should look at this as just a different location of where you're doing your work, right? If you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, still go through your same routine. You're saving a little bit more time with your drive time. So maybe instead of 5, you get up at 6, right? So because you don't have that drive time anymore. But I'm a firm believer in the scheduling process, right? For me, when this first started, my schedule was a little all over the place, but I got my hands around it after a while. It wasn't easy, and I'm not saying this is easy at all, but I think for you to calm anybody that you speak to, you yourself have to be in a good place, and you have to start out that way, right? Just to add to some of the statistics that you had about the market, and this validates exactly what you were saying. About a week ago, NAR did the National Association of Realtors did a poll that said that 63% of buyers expected a drop in home prices, right? They also did a poll that said that 72% of sellers are not dropping their price based on COVID-19. So there's a difference in what people think is going to happen and what is actually happening, right? So people have to be very aware that these sellers are not coming down on the price of these homes because there's no reason to, because there's no supply. This is not and I like to say it all the time, right? This is not, when you buy a house, the house that you buy, you may use emotions to pick that house, but the actual act of purchasing it is not an emotional decision. It's a very strategic. It's thought out. You have to save up a down payment, or you have to have a down payment. You have to take yourself to go get a mortgage. You have to do all these things. That has to be very strategic, right? So this is not something that they're going to see is going to impact it like an emotional buy, like if you're going to buy a car or something like that, right? It's not an emotional thing. So for them to let the emotion of fear, unless the sellers have that fear, it's not going to impact it the same way. I don't know if you agree with that, but yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I think when it comes to to value, and me, you, and Ruben had a good conversation about this. And remember, real estate is all local. We cannot compare our market to anywhere else in the country. So real estate is all local. We need in South Florida to have a balanced market, between 6 and 8 months of inventory. So we need to get to 6 to 8 months of inventory to have a balanced market, right? Then you need to to begin to shift to a buyer's market, we need to go at 10 months and over, right? So we are right now, because we're technically locked down, we're about less than 3 months, right? So you got to take the entire MLS. And you know what? Let me do that really quick. Let me just.
I actually think we're less than 2 months, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're less than 2 months of inventory right now.
I'm gonna take the entire county really quick. I'm gonna do first single families, and then I'm gonna do condos, because otherwise it's not gonna fit. Give me 1 second, everybody. This is doing it live on the go. Actually, I think I'm gonna be able to get everything in one box. Good. No, it didn't fit. No, sorry about that. Hold on. Let me do single family homes, and we'll go from there.
So
single
Ernesto,
family homes right now, and in the Tri-County area. Let's do single family homes, and we'll, So single family homes, we're about there's 5,200 single family homes for sale, right? And that is, under 3 months.
Yeah.
So that is what, Larry, about, we need to multiply that times 6.
6. Yeah.
Let's make it 5,200 times 6. So we need 31,000 single family homes to hit the market before we switch into a buyer's market.
Right. Absolutely.
That. We need to take the 5,200 homes that we have for sale right now in the Tri-County area and add 3,120 homes, 31,200 to that. Try to wrap your head around that. That's a lot of inventory that needs to come into the market for it to become a buyer's market, and then for what Larry was saying, for them prices to begin to erode. So it's possible, yes, but that's a massive amount of inventory that needs to come up in the market. And LA, if I'm wrong, I'll be here doing this again, and I'll tell you, hey, listen, I was completely wrong. The statistics don't show it to me.
Right, and people don't. It goes back to what I was saying. Buying a house is not emotional. It's supply and demand. It's very basic supply and demand. When we're in short supply and we have a lot of buyers, prices go up. We're in, when we're in high supply and less buyer, prices go down. Right? It's supply and demand. That's really what it is, and it's very localized. I love when you say that, because real estate is a very local thing, and each market individually works very differently from everything else, right? Any other market. So when we talk about when there's a shortage, right, and there's too many buyers, those buyers are going to fight for those supply that you have, raising prices. What people don't understand is we may go through this and house prices may actually go up.
Well, that's what happened. That's what happened the last 2 pandemics, because everything has to do with inventory. I had a brief conversation yesterday, Larry. We did one of these webinars yesterday with a developer that is focusing on EB-5 visas in Miami. And for those that missed it, it's posted below. You can watch it. EB-5 visa is a way to migrate to the U.S. With making a contribution to a specific project. So right now, that investment is sitting about $900,000. There's some talks of being reduced, but there's more demand out of the entire planet of people wanting to come to the U.S. than ever. Only because while we're going through what we're going through, this is the safer harbor in the planet. And then when you look at Florida, the real estate is local, so let's reduce it to a state-wise. If everybody's income is going to be affected, right? you're gonna want to move to a place where you're less taxed than anywhere else.
That's right.
Where else where is it cheaper where's it cheaper for me to live? And Florida is the fourth cheapest state when it comes to taxes. You know, guys, that you gotta take that into equation. Fourth cheapest place. You know,
Yes,
you want to know who number two is? South Dakota.
I don't think the amount of people that are moving to South Florida are moving to South Dakota. To Florida in general are moving to South Dakota.
Number one is Alaska. I visited. It's beautiful. Half the year, you know, there's nothing, you know. So we are as a state, Florida is positioned to weather the storm better. And a couple of comments I have gotten is like, oh, but look how bad the last recession was in Florida and how bad housing was in Florida. You gotta break it down to what were the key points that affected housing in Florida. And there was all those mortgages that were not should have been written, mortgages that never should have been done, that created that spin. You know, I think FAR has a study that 5%, so the first 14% of all homes in Florida have 10% equity. Then the next 10% has 20% equity. And then it goes on and on and on and on. So let's take Boca Raton, for example. That means that the people that are more exposed right now to, let's call it a contraction, right? Average home sale price in Boca is $460,000, right?
Right.
So if they have 10%, the ones that are more exposed, they have 10% of equity, they have $46,000 of equity on their home. So they're not sitting in a negative situation. So even if the market contracts 5%, they're still got equity. Then the next 10% has 20% of equity in their homes. Then we're talking about the 25% bottom half of the market. If we're going to average out, that's about 90, and Boca has $90,000 to $100,000 of equity in their homes. So these are, you know, they're not in a position to say, I'm just going to walk away from this. So.
Right. And I agree. And people have to realize, right? If there's equity in those homes, and I love these statistics that you put out into the world because it shows you exactly what will happen, right? So if you look at it, if there's equity in the home, right? And let's say the house is worth $400,000, there's 10% equity in the home, which would be $40,000, right? You're looking at, if they're in trouble, they have to sell the house for $360,000 or better to get out of that trouble, right? If they're in a forbearance time, if the market value is 400, they'll have the time to actually put it on the market for 400.
Exactly.
So I understand and I agree with you. There is going to be a contraction in the market, but I don't think it's going to be the big, huge explosion that some people are fearful of, right? The data doesn't support that. And you know, I'm a numbers guy, right? So for me, the data points have to show that that's where we're going for me to believe it. You know, I was reading something the other day in the Miami Herald, right? And yes, I still do read online, but yes, right? And it said that during what's happening right now, right? During this time that we're going through right now, there are a lot of what we call down here as snowbirds that come down for 6 months or 3 months or whatever it is. They are actually taking their rentals and starting to look to buy homes now because they feel exactly what you said. It's cheaper for the living. They feel safer for where it is. Because if you look at a lot of these enormous metropolitan cities, especially the older folks, they're a little scareder up there than they are in somewhere that's a little bit more spaced out, you know. But they're converting those renters into buyers right now, and they're looking to move from condos into because of right now with the amenities being shut down, they're moving from condos into single family homes with yards. That's the statistic that's out right now, and that's as of April 8th, right?
Yeah.
So I think just in a nutshell, you know, the equity's there. They have time to, with their forbearance, to get it onto the market, to advertise it properly, and I think that's going to put a lot of people in a good position to sell. I don't believe that the data points show that the foreclosure, and like you said, you know, I'll be on here saying the same thing. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. This is just my opinion, and I just don't believe that the data points are there. You know, from what I've been reading.
As we're speaking, there's an article that just came across CNBC, and like I was saying, you got to put on your oxygen mask and you got to finish riding the storm. So one of the industries that's been decimated, not affected, decimated, is the cruise industry.
Mm-hmm.
So the CEO for Carnival was just speaking, and they're telling us that, you know, that their bookings for 2021 are upticking at a rate that they didn't expect. So their summer bookings for 2021 are getting booked up already. So even sitting at home, while we're still sitting at home, a lot of people are saying, I want to take a vacation and I'm going to, you know, so you got to look at that with that lens. Something, Larry, that was shared with me multiple times yesterday from agents, our agents and other agents, you know, and was this news that came out of JP Morgan Chase and out of Wells Fargo, that they had changed their guidelines. And if anybody from any lenders listening, they want to participate, you can put in your question, that their guidelines have been changed, and loans, all of a sudden, they were looking for a 700 credit score and 20% down payment on their loans. You got to understand that the mortgage industry, and I'm not a lender, but you know, the mortgage industry there's two parts. There's the bank part, and then there is the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, backed up by Ginnie Mae part. What Wells Fargo, the decision that Wells Fargo made, and the decision that Chase made yesterday and the day before yesterday, is regarding their portfolio loans. The loans that they make and they keep on their books, that they don't sell, that they keep them for income, right? So in those loans, which are what we call portfolio loans, they are keeping it with them. They're keeping it with them, and they change their guidelines right now. Why? Because since there's a lot of people going into forbearance, they know that their income, it's going to be affected, the bank's income. So they're looking for money. They're looking for capital. So how are they looking for capital? Without 20% down payment. Now, that, and I want everybody to listen, I'm getting close to the camera, that does not apply to any government-backed loan. FHA, VA, those loans are still being done with 3.5% down payment, 5% down payment. Some lenders are still getting done with 660, 680 credit scores. It's up to your lender. So the decision made by Chase and by Wells Fargo, it has to do with their private portfolio loans. And if you want to have a conversation with me about it to understand that better, perfectly fine. Send me a message. I'll call you. We can do a private Zoom. But that doesn't mean that all loans starting today, you need 20% down payment and 700 credit scores. No, that's not what's happening.
So I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because the Florida Association of Realtors had put out an article a couple of days ago talking about just that, right? And it said that the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Ginnie Mae loans only fell 2.7%, and they're equating that to the people that lost their job, right? They're not equating that to stringent regulations that they have to meet now. That's not what it is. That when it comes to those federally backed loans, you're only talking about 2.7%, whereas for what they're talking about for those portfolio loans, you're talking about somewhere, probably a lot higher of a number, probably in the 30-35% range. But so people, and most loans, just so we're clear, most loans are those federally backed loans. Most loans that go out are those federally backed loans, right? So you're only talking about a very small percentage of a much larger pie, you know? So I agree. You know, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying. So I have a question for you now, Ernesto.
Sure.
So what do you think is going to happen when this ends? Let's say they flip the switch tomorrow. Everybody goes back to work. What do you think is happening? Because I've been reading some articles on it, and a lot of people are saying that it's going to be a V-shaped recovery. Most economists are saying it's going to be a V-shaped recovery versus a U-shaped recovery. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this because we have gone over a lot of information here, and just so we can tie it all together.
So I think that the it is going to be a V-shaped recovery, and you gotta and you know, and once again you gotta look at data. You gotta look at data just to be safe. Understand? So for those that are following, and first of all, you shouldn't be following the news, whatever channel you're following. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. A couple of people that we both know are posted lately that they have literally chosen to turn off the news and only watch them at one point in time in the day. I
Right.
think that's great because remember, 24-hour news channel, it's just repeating the same thing over and over. So you shouldn't be, overwhelming yourself with that, especially if you're trying to have a calm head, which was the point of today's topic. So in 2009, when the mortgage default lent itself to the financial crisis and the great long recession that we had, federal government came in with what they called a bazooka at that time and put a little bit under $1 trillion into our economy to stabilize the markets and the markets to come back. And then I have that chart of how did that came back. And then when you look at what that did to our economy from 2009, our economy sort of stable. 2010 was stable. Then it dropped a little more in 2010 to 11, and then increased from 2011 on at a rate that no one can expect it, right? And that was with a little bit under $1 trillion being dropped into our economy. We are right now, based on the last stimulus, or not a stimulus, it's a stimulus, not a bailout. We are talking about already, we're at 4.2 trillion. So it's 4 times what was injected into the economy in 2009. There's no way that the economy does not bubble up again with that much liquidity coming into the market. And we're talking about there's another package that it's being floated, and it's what's gonna really, to me, gonna be the icing on the cake, and they're just waiting for every state to be open. There's a plan out there for infrastructure work for the U.S. They're talking about a 50-year bond, which that's how it's gonna get paid for, a 50-year, 100-year bond to raise $2.5 trillion in infrastructure for the U.S. That means that our country is going to fix all of the roads, all of the bridges. They're going to remodel all of the airports. They're going to remodel all public schools. Everything that is a government building or run by the government, every courthouse in the country, all of these things are going to get a redone, and not just paint and carpet. That's not what we're talking about. Since we're going to have to we're preparing for, God forbid, for this to ever happen again, tech is being brought into everything. All the technology is going to be brought into everything. So we're talking about, by the time we blink, we're close to $8 trillion being injected into the economy. Now, it is going to be a V, but I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know if we're talking that kind of a V, or what I think is more realistic is this kind of a V, that we will have a quarter of flat, right? And then a shot up like we couldn't expect, because we're doubling. Remember, if the minute we open all the economy, income producing activities will resurge again, right? And at that moment, Larry, you're gonna have this $8 trillion moving around, plus all the money that the economy produces regularly. So there's just no way to go but we're up.
Right.
And something that I forgot to mention quickly was a lot of developers, going back to values, real estate, what we do, a lot of developers, and I won't mention the names, have put the brakes right now on building spec homes. And you will think like, well, Ernesto, that's fantastic. That is taking inventory away from us to sell. Remember,
Yep.
what drives value on anything, it's inventory. Inventory. The reason you can go get a car today and get a 0% interest on an 84-month purchase on any American car today is because they have a lot of cars that they need to sell and they cannot drop the price. So that's the only way they can incentivize you to buy those cars. So going back to my number, and look at my calculator, it's still there. Once we get to those 30, let's call them 32,000 new single family homes in the market in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, at that moment, I'll come back with Larry and say, okay, Larry, we need to have a whole brand new conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Because at that moment, let's analyze. And even when that happens, it's not going to be, there might be a correction in some markets. There might not be a correction in some other markets. Why? For example, Boca. Boca is an area that drives a lot of Northeastern traffic, a lot of New York traffic, Boston traffic, huge. I was on a call with 3 large brokers from Manhattan yesterday, and I had to drop because something else came up, but it was an interesting call. And they're getting a lot of calls from sellers that want out of Manhattan. They're very concerned about, think about it. There's like 9 million people that live in an island quarter size of Broward County.
Yep.
So there's a lot of people that are, saying, you know what, I want out. And where they're going to come? South Florida. And when they come to South Florida, Boca is a place that they already have an affinity to. They already have a connection. They have family. They know it. They've been visited. So we're getting those buyers from the Northeast, and they're still going to come to our area. So once our market gets to that number, then I'll tell you that what's going to happen, and it will be segmented. But it has to be a recovery because there's just so much liquidity coming into the market. Now, what you got to do, if you're listening to me and Larry today as a real estate professional, you got to do what you need to do to survive and then thrive. You need to put on your oxygen mask and survive. You're not unemployed. You should not be watching TV. You should be loading your cannon to the minute they say go, you can go and get to work. Larry, I had written 3 little notes regarding things that I wanted everybody listening, because the topic was how to calm the markets. To everybody listening, you're doing my first note on how to calm the markets. Staying engaged. If you're listening, you're it's 142 people listening right now. If you're listening to us right now, and or to us or to anybody out there that's putting valuable content out there, you're staying engaged. So you're learning and you're hearing what to share back with your customers. So by staying engaged, that's one of the 3 simple reasons that you can do to maintain the market. Me and Larry have been sharing a lot of data. And if you want those statistics, send us an email and we'll share it to you so you can share those visuals with everybody else out there. So, everything we're sharing to you, we have it written down. We have the slides of it. So share the visuals. So when you're making those calls to your sphere of influence, to your business or new business that you're soliciting, you want to share that information. And this is the new reality. You gotta get comfortable doing this type of calls. You gotta get comfortable with Zoom. You gotta get comfortable with Skype, Microsoft meetings, Google meetings. You gotta get comfortable with this situation right now. So Larry, those are my 3 topics on how to calm the markets outside all the data that we threw out them. So I don't know if you have put any of those together.
Well, yes, absolutely. And at the end of this, I'm going to send you. I have all of the data points that I was talking about. I'll send it over to you so you can have it and add it into the package for anybody that wants it. But I think you're absolutely right. You have to get comfortable with what these kind of conversations are now looking like, right? Because even with me instructing, we're instructing over a webinar now. we're doing webinar instruction. So definitely understand that. But I think, going back to our topic of calming the market, right? You have to understand what's happening, right? So you yourself can be calm. So when you explain it to somebody else, they're going to feed off of that calm that you have, that you're not worried, you're not scared of what's happening, because this is the data and this is what I'm presenting to you, right? It's very hard to argue with statistical data versus your opinion, right? If your opinion is based on data, then it's easier. But if it's just your opinion with no data that backs it up, then it's a lot easier to argue with. And I think that's how you have to comment. And I challenge a lot of people out there that are hearing the conversations like what we were talking about. Well, the market's going to crash. I'm going to wait. I'm not going to sell my house. I'm not going to do this. I don't want to do that. Well, statistically, what's happening doesn't line up with what you're saying. So what you're saying can actually be the opposite of what's actually going to happen. Like you and I spoke about, the builders, not to mention any, but the builders are stopping projects. So if they're shortening the supply, if supply goes down, prices may go up. That's just, a problem that may happen. You may have more expensive houses on the market when this is all said and done. It's a possibility, So I think that
we had a question from Luz. Hi, Luz. How are you?
I
Luz, if you're asking about the guidelines for the lending guidelines, I will have CMG send you a quick email or give you a call. Like I said, in the CMG just put out a campaign that their federally backed loans are still in place without any changes. So I'll have that send that to you. Somebody says, are we in a depression? No, so a recession is 2 quarters of negative growth. That's the definition of a recession. So, but by looking at the numbers that we're in right now, we can call this a recession. However, I think I have even tried to look up what's the definition of a depression, and I couldn't find it. But let's call a depression 4 quarters of negative growth. So it's an entire year of negative growth. Like Larry asked me, I think we're in a V. We're going to be in a V recovery. I just don't know how long we're going to be at the bottom. If we're going to be at the bottom for 10 days, 30 days, an entire quarter before it starts climbing up. But with all this liquidity coming into the market, you're going to see a recovery. So no, it's not a depression. They will call it a recession when the next quarter is over, because that you got to have an entire quarter to be able to qualify it. Who knows? Maybe we only have 1 quarter of negative growth, which is the first quarter of the year, and all this liquidity. So someone put a video that I'm going to find, Larry, of what is a $1 trillion, and they did it with rice. So every little thing of rice was $1 million, right? So he assembled 1 million, then 1 billion, and then 1 trillion. So how many rice were in $1 trillion? And I'm watching this video and I'm like, Jesus. So you got to understand, all the liquidity is coming into the market at once. Right. Like I said, to me, unemployment will end the year between 8 and 10%. And it could be even less depending on this construction stimulus plan when it gets passed. But real estate, what we do, what everybody listening to me and you doing, I will tell you what I did in 2009 and 2010. I focused myself on producing. I stopped paying attention to what values were. And if for those that wanna see me, there's a YouTube channel where this will be posted. I have videos from 2010, which I use. I've been doing videos for a while, and I talk about the market at that moment. And you'll see that if you at that moment I focus on sales, and there were still sales taking place. Like Larry just said, sales are still going to take place. you got to get up in the morning and be a part of it. You're not unemployed. You were not fired. You're not unemployed. You are an independent contractor. You work for yourself. Don't fire yourself. Do not fire yourself.
I 100% agree. I agree with everything you said. You know, you have to have the discipline and the structure to get yourself up every single day and go out and seek to help other people that are going through this. You know, we're talking about calming the market. It's our job and our duty as real estate professionals to go out and educate the market, especially when there have this fear that's not not substantiated by any fact. You know, it's our job to go out and put these facts out into the world to educate these people. And a lot of people that, you know, and I liked where you touched on earlier, where you said, you know, you can't watch the news all day. You know, that chips away at you. It really does.
Yeah.
It chips away at you because remember, the news is a lot of the bad things that happen in the world all day long. So if you're looking at that, that's going to chip away at you. And when you're just kind of, you have to take yourself out of that mindset and you have to do what we were meant to do here, right? Is put that information out into the world, educate the consumer about what your industry is really doing and what is happening in your industry.
So one of your colleagues is asking if we can put a presentation on how to use Zoom. Alessandro's asking. Alessandro, I'm going to send you the YouTube link on how to do Zoom, but I can tell you that, you know, Zoom is really cool. You see, I'm about to, you guys see that? So all of a sudden I left the office and I'm broadcasting to you live from San Francisco, you know, so it's, you know.
Ernesto, you don't have a mask on and you're outside, buddy.
Oh, see, I'm out of space. I'm off of space. So, you know, so you can do a lot of things with Zoom. And I'll send you the link. I can tell you it's been trial and error, and you know, that's how we got in there. If there are any other questions, or Larry, anything you want to say in closing to everybody watching?
I just want everybody to you know, pay attention to what's going on in the world. I'm not telling you to cut yourself off, but do it sparingly, please. Get yourself motivated. Get out there, educate your customers, and I want you to, and I challenge everybody to, when they hear these things, to educate them. You know, I had a conversation over the weekend. Somebody said to me, they go, "Well, the real estate market's going to crash." I go, "Oh, really?" I said, simply, just very simple. So why do you believe that? And then I just had a conversation. And at the end of it, they were like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that." It's our job to educate.
Got it. No, I'm with you. It's you know, like I said, you know, stay engaged, positively engaged. Listen to people that, you know, are sharing stuff. Gather data, share that data, and stay active. You know, there's some you know, news that we might be opening by May 1st. You know, so, you know, once we get to that level, you don't want to bend, like Larry just said, you know, you got 15 days to correct that habit. So if you've been doing the wrong thing and you heard us for the first time today, you got 15 days to get everything in order and where you want to be and what you want to do. So go ahead and take advantage of these 15 days. You know, get educated, get prepared, learn your scripts, and so you'll be able to be employed, because you are employed. I want to thank everybody watching. First of all, stay safe, stay engaged. Your business has not stopped. As we just finished sharing this with you, real estate is still getting done. For the time being, maybe the next 15, 20 days, it'll be done in a different way. And after this, it will probably be done a little different than it was done prior to this. But, you know, humans are very resilient. If you wanna do some fun reading, there's a couple of great articles about the U.S. after Spanish flu, and what happened a year after, 2 years after, and 3 years after. and it will show you, first of all, the resilience of us as Americans, and how quickly adaptability to new environments and how we went back to normal habits once the comfort level was at. So fun reading. Thanks for you. Yes, a couple of people are asking about putting together a PowerPoint. I will go back and forth with Larry and put a couple of slides together, and we'll share it. We'll share it in our private face group so you guys can have it. But I can tell you that, you know, it is a different environment where we are right now, and you have no choice but to adapt. You have
Absolutely.
no choice but to adapt. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Larry for spending this time with me. It's been
Thank
a
you, Ernesto,
pleasure.
for having me.
And you know, everybody else out there, stay safe, stay productive, and see you around.